Hey, good morning, everybody. Mike Evans here. Today, I'm going to talk a little bit about working with shy children, whether it's your own child or it's maybe a child that you work with as an instructor or a teacher or even just a caretaker. So first of all, when we talk about shy children, we need to delineate whether they are shy or introverted. So how do we make this decision? Shyness has some element of anxiety or fear attached to the child's actions or inactions, depending on what the case is. Introversion, however, is just a preference. There's no fear or anxiety. There may be some anxiety with having to go outside of a comfort zone, but it is not necessarily related directly to interacting with people. So introversion is just a preference for minimally stimulating environments. I tend to be an introvert. You'd never know it because I do all these videos and my various media outlets, and I teach these classes and I speak in front of hundreds of people. But my preference is that minimally stimulating environment. There's nothing more than I love than our family day on Sundays at home. That's introversion. Shyness, though, would be some level of fear or anxiety that prevents me from doing those things. Hey, Russ, thanks for joining. Now, there's a third category of kids here that I don't want to exclude. We should be aware of them. These are the kids that they don't necessarily have the fear or anxiety. They actively desire interaction with their peers, but they still struggle for some reason. They still have problems inserting themselves into the social activities or into friendships and relationships. Now, these kids are not necessarily shy or introverted. In fact, they might be quite the opposite, but it appears on the surface that there's some level of shyness. And these kids might be living with some sort of an emotional disability, whether it's an induced one from some sort of trauma or perceived trauma, or maybe it's just a developmental thing that we can deal with through some emotional counseling with a professional counselor. That's out of my scope of practice, but these kids really benefit from that. Maybe they are somewhere on the autism spectrum, and more nowadays, professionals are starting to remove the other labels. They're starting to do away with categorizing people almost even as Asperger's or ADD or ADHD and kind of associating those all just with this spectrum that falls kind of under autism. I don't know that I 100% agree with it, but I'm not a clinical practitioner, so what am I going to say? Or even maybe these kids just have some sort of sensory processing issue where a normal sound to you or me is a really loud sound, or a light touch to you and me is something that sets them completely ill at ease because it's too much. So it might be sensory processing. And these are all things that, these kids will thrive with some sort of clinical intervention, whether it's counseling therapy, maybe sometimes some occupational therapy to help them better interact with their environment, something like that. Out of the scope of this video, but we want to be aware of them. So let's talk about shyness. Shyness, there is some level of a desire for interaction, but there is a fear or anxiety that doesn't always make sense. Sometimes it does, but it doesn't always make sense to us as outside observers or even to the child. Sometimes they'll describe things and just say, I'm afraid of that person because that person has a cat and one time I was bit by a dog. It doesn't really make sense to us or even to the child once they say it out loud, but fear isn't always logical. So there's that fear or anxiety. There tends to be escapist activities. Now, this can range from anything from hiding behind mom's leg. Now, this is perfectly normal at certain stages of development. Your 3 and 4-year-old is hiding behind mom or dad's leg. It's just how it works. Not all of them, obviously, but it's the norm. So it might be something like instead of going to the dance at school, they would rather sit home and read. I was a voracious reader as a child, not so much because I was shy, but because I preferred that. So there's that where that fear anxiety thing becomes important when we start to discuss what we're talking about. Now, here's the thing. Shyness is not a failure of the parent. It's not a failure of the child. It simply is. In fact, there's a biological component to shyness. And that is something that if your child is shy, has all those qualities, that's something they share with 2 out of 5 kids. That means 40% of kids at some point in their lives go through at least a period of some level of shyness, some level of fear and anxiety related to interaction with other people. So knowing all this, maybe we feel a little better about our position and about our child's ability to grow from this. We can recognize that, yes, they are dealing with some shyness. How do we get past it? Well, the very first thing we need to do is stop calling them shy. We need to not label them. In previous videos, I talked a little bit about using labeled praise. And labeled praise is a way to not just praise a child or praise the child's action, but praise a character trait behind those actions. So we want to make sure that when the child does something good, I don't just say, oh, Johnny, you're a good kid. Or I don't say, hey, Johnny, what you did was very good. I say, it was very good because it showed great confidence. And confidence is a character trait I want them to associate with themselves so that they, don't argue with it next time it comes up. You don't very easily go against your own self-image. So if you see yourself as a confident person, you will start to act as a confident person. But this works in reverse. So if we just say, oh, my child probably won't like that because they're a shy child, and your child hears you, well, guess what? They associate themselves with shyness. That's just who they are. Live with it. That's how things are going to be. If you even direct it at them, why are you so shy? Even the way we ask the question reinforces that shyness, that self-view of shyness. So we want to do away with that. And instead of using that label of shyness, we want to find other ways to interact and question. Asking about, well, how do you feel right now is far more effective immediately and in the long run than saying, well, why are you shy? So we want to get away from using even that word shy or shyness. Next, once your child kind of talks to you about it or displays these tendencies, we want to first of all acknowledge it. Now, acknowledgement is not necessarily agreement. In the example I gave with the child that was shy around this particular person because they had a cat and one time a dog bit them. You can't just say, well, that's dumb. Nobody likes being told that they're wrong, especially kids. You don't like it. You don't like when somebody comes in and says you're wrong. It doesn't feel good, and it only adds to the anxiety. So we want to make sure that we're just acknowledging, oh, I understand that you feel that way, or even why they feel that way. Doesn't necessarily mean you have to agree with it, but it's a way for you to connect with them. Be the safe person for them. Okay, this is somebody that understands that I have these feelings. You need to start to build the connection so that we could take our next couple steps. You also want to learn about their anxieties, get them talking about it so that you can get to the roots. You want to find out, why are you nervous around this person? They have a dog. Well, yeah, one time I got bitten by a cat, or vice versa, or whatever it happens to be. Through discussion, safe discussion, non-accusatory or not pushing, we can draw them out and really get to the roots of what's causing this anxiety and then start to take care of it. So the next thing we want to start to do is to practice. So once we've kind of acknowledged that this child has these anxieties, these fears, and we've found out a little bit about what it is, maybe we haven't gotten right to the root, but we found out a little bit about what it is, we need to start to practice ways that they can find success. So we want to practice situations in which your child feels anxious to help remove some of those anxieties. And we want to do this someplace where it's not in that situation that's causing the anxieties. So I recommend, for example, if they're just generally shy, won't say hello to people, hide behind your leg, won't make eye contact, we're going to practice this at home. Whatever room they feel comfortable in, maybe it's their bedroom or the living room or whatever room they kind of like being in. We need them totally at ease for all other things so that we can focus just on this one issue. And what we're going to do is make sure it's nice and quiet, comfortable, temperature, everything that could possibly affect them is right. We're going to build a little connection. Talk to them. Let them know what you're going to do. Get their feelings about it. And then we want to start to practice whatever it is together. So in the example of just being able to say hello to people, to initiate conversation, or even to respond when somebody else says hello to us, here's a role-playing exercise we can start with. First of all, we are the safe person. We did that through building connection, through acknowledgement, through discussion, and through wanting to help them. So what we're going to do is just say hello and have them say hello back. Now, it sounds silly, but it's a first step. We want to do it so that, we could practice it 2 or 3 times and then have them say hello to us, and we'll say hello back, and then just leave it at that. Great job. And then we start to build it up so that now we're going to add some motion. So you'll come in from the other room and then say hello. They'll say hello back, and vice versa. You try that a little bit until it just becomes habit, so that every time you walk into a room where they are, one of you is saying hello and the other is responding. Now, that's not enough. That's our first baseline step. So what we want to start to do from there is scaffold. And scaffolding is a technique we use in education to build on a child's discovery or success by either leading them to the next discovery or success, or asking them prodding questions. It's a little almost Socratic method where I ask questions to kind of get them to build upon their own inquiry. So scaffolding in this case, what we're going to do is, once I can consistently have them respond to me, respond to them consistently to the point where it's just what you do, we're going to start to build on that. And we're going to include third parties, because you are the safe person. All we've been working on so far is the actions we're going to take. But if we never take them, we can't label that as success. So we're going to start with something really simple. For a younger child, this becomes really easy because you can use a teddy bear, favorite doll, anything they have laying around that's maybe already their comfort item, a blanket. It doesn't even have to be, something anthropomorphous. It doesn't have to look like a person. Anything will work. Anytime they see that, they're going to say hello, and then you can have a little fun. And, if it's a blanket, put your hand in it, make a little puppet, and hello, right? Have some fun. And then once they're comfortable doing that, not just with you, but with this third party inanimate object, you're going to find something living, something, not scary. The family dog. And the family dog is great. Dogs are oxytocin with fur. Oxytocin is one of those feel-good chemicals that comes from physical contact, from feeling good around someone. They are just oxytocin with fur. So you come in, first thing you do when you walk in is you say, hello, Spot, and have the child say hello to Spot, and then reinforce it by saying, look how Spot's tail is wagging. He's so happy that you said hello. That's how dogs say hello. So now it's something that, they have to actively seek this other thing, this other person will say, my dog is my kid, so, or one of my kids. So to me, I'll say person, but I mean the dog. But it's non-aggressive. It's not going to elicit that anxiety yet. It's just another level of practice. Now let's move to a person. The other parent is great, because if you've been practicing this one-on-one, moving to the other parent is still somebody comfortable, but it's somebody that hasn't been involved in this whole role-playing thing. And same way, have them say hello, have the child say hello back. Non-threatening, but it's somebody else. Now we go a step farther. Let's practice what's going to happen. What's a reason we might have to say hello to somebody? Have one parent go outside, knock on the door, and answer the door with your child. Do the whole hello exercise again. We want this to become familiar to them. We want this to almost become their, I don't want to say crutch, because that's not a very positive word, but we want this to be saying hello, the thing that they know, the thing that they feel they can do, so that it becomes natural to them. Now answering the door kind of stimulates that, okay, somebody from outside is coming in. And then you get the idea. You could take this to a friendly neighbor, to a grandparent, to a teacher at school, having them practice the same exercise, but always expanding it step by step by step. What if 2 people are there, a cousin and a sibling? We want to keep it anxiety level low, but always expanding the horizons. So now on top of that lesson, that's something that's going to take some time. Let's see. Hold on real quick. James says here, totally most kids that I find and present as shy are one, usually very intelligent. Two, it's more of a learned behavior. This can be. Sometimes kids who present as shy, not to get off topic real quick, but sometimes kids that present as shy are actually intellectually ahead of their stage of development. However, their social and emotional levels of development haven't quite caught up. So it becomes a very cerebral exercise for them that they would like to have certain conversations and certain interactions, but the other kid isn't ready for that. Their peer is not ready for that because the peer is at I'll say, quote unquote, normal stage of development, or what we would expect for that age group. So it becomes this very cerebral, logical, well, they can't understand me, so I'm just going to do my own thing, and I don't like interacting with other kids. So that is something to be aware of. That is more of a stage of development transition than true shyness. So we want to make sure that when we're working with our kids, we can give them other tools to use. And I call them tips and tricks, but a trick is just something that you see that you don't understand. You don't know how it works. The child might not understand how this works, but we're going to give it to them as a tool. So first, once they kind of get this whole hello thing down and then they got it going on and they're doing really well with it, we're going to coach them to smile when they say hello. What it does is it makes them appear non-threatening, and it gets them used to interacting with people with positive emotions associated. So when they smile, what happens? We as humans are very reciprocal. We smile back. Now it's a friendly interaction. Part of that anxiety of what if they don't like me goes away because we're approaching it in a friendly manner. So coaching them to smile when they say hello and to look for other people's smiles. And if somebody smiles at you, say hello. This is the next level. This is them starting to recognize social cues and to present those social cues as well, to pre-frame the response they're hoping to get but fearful that they won't get. Next, even with young kids, you can do this. Start to just ask them, what color is that man's eyes? What color is Spot's eyes? What color are Mom's eyes? And what they're doing is they're looking at somebody's eyes. Now, this is related to a trick I learned when taking a drama class, in that when you have a little bit of stage fright, we would find something way in the back and count it. And I would go out there and count, for example, the bricks in an auditorium wall. And what happens is I'm looking now out at the audience, but I'm not seeing it. I'm focused on one particular thing. How many blocks in that row, how many rows, that many blocks times that many, and it kind of takes you out of that moment really quickly. We want to get them looking in people's eyes, making eye contact, because that looks confident, and people approach confident people with confidence. They want to be their friends a little more. So again, we're pre-framing that response we're hoping to get. Then you can tell them, now, when you looked at my eyes, I thought you were a very confident person. Reinforce that character trait we're looking for. Now, you might also, if your child is really struggling, find other ways to say hello. Not everybody is very comfortable verbally. Some people may even have a speech impediment or a perceived speech impediment. They just might not like the way their voice sounds or the way they make certain letters. So find other ways. You can wave at somebody. You can give a high five. You can give a fist bump. You can say, hey. You can nod your head. Make sure it's appropriate to the people with whom they're interacting. But if that helps, give it to them as a tool. So next, we want to go back to that labeled praise. With each attempt, whether it's talking to you or their teddy bear or their dog or answering the door, whatever it is, we want to make sure that whether they were successful or not, that we find a way to praise the character trait that we are trying to build. So right off the bat, we want to say, that was very brave of you to try. If one parent standing outside shivering, ringing the doorbell, waiting for their child to come say hello, and it doesn't happen, they went up to the door but froze. It's great. That's very brave of you to come up to the door when the doorbell rings. Next time, maybe we'll try it. We'll see how you feel. So what I've done is I kind of associated That bravery, that confidence, that ability to be affable and likable already with their self-image, even though they didn't quite achieve it yet, they took a step, and steps are something to be praised. So we want to say, you were very brave to try that. It showed good confidence when you walked up to the door so quickly. And, just find other ways, but be honest. Kids can see through, just hyperbole. We want to make sure we're being honest. So the next step is strategic control. Now, all of these things that we've been doing are strategies, but actually they are tactical. They are things we are doing in the moment, even though it's not the true moment of walking into the school cafeteria, maybe. They are things that we are doing tactically to prepare. Let's talk about strategies. Strategies are a little more long-term, a broader viewpoint. So while all these tactics do help, we want to make sure that we have a good set of strategic tools to reinforce and to really just help them feel comfortable. First of all, we want to teach them to label their emotions. So just like we're labeling the character trait when we praise, we want the child to start to label their emotions, especially those fears and anxieties. Labeling their emotions, first of all, helps disengage the limbic system, that emotional, oh my God, I'm so fearful because this might happen, and oh my God, what about this and the other thing, and then, oh, he looked at me. By saying, okay, I'm really anxious because people are looking at me, by the simple act of labeling it, it brings that emotional thought to the prefrontal cortex where a lot of rational, logical thought happens. So it removes that chemical cortisol response and makes it just a more thoughtful moment. Okay, I'm feeling real anxious right now because that person looked at me and I'm not sure what to say. Well, now the solution is simple. Oh, I do know what to say. We practiced this at home with Spot. I'm going to smile, see what color eyes they have, and then say hello. So labeling their emotion gives them a tool. It also gives them the ability to more quickly recognize when they're starting to feel these emotions. The sooner they can feel these emotions, the sooner they can deal with them before they just snowball and overtake their daily life. And what we want to do is give them a technique to reverse that. Something as simple as teaching them deep breathing. 3 deep breaths or 10 deep breaths, whatever's appropriate for your child. What happens is when they start taking these deep breaths, it slows them down a little bit. It slows down that avalanche of emotion. It lowers their blood pressure. It starts to release some of these happy feel-good chemicals in our body. It provides them a little calmness, and that 3 breaths or 5 breaths or 10 breaths, whatever it is, gives them a little bit of time to process what they're feeling, how they're going to do with it, what their next step should be. So they see their friend across the way, they really want to talk to them, but they're nervous, their friend might not like them today. Oh, I'm starting to get a little nervous. Okay, this is nervous. I feel nervous because I'm worried. 10 deep breaths. Or in this case, maybe 3 is a better example. 3 deep breaths. Okay, I'm going to go over there, smile, say hello, just like we practiced. And then they can go for it. They can make a better attempt than when those anxieties are raging full force. So we said that this is not your child's fault. This is not your fault. This is something just genetic and biological. This is something that is very integrated both into your child's emotional self, into their intellectual self, into their chemical responses in their body. This is not something that is going to be fixed by a day of role playing or 3 quick breaths. Raising children in general, especially kids who need a little bit of extra support, is a long game. It is not a series of momentary successes that we can say, okay, great. It's a long game of 18 years or sometimes more. We want to make sure that we take our time, be supportive, but don't push. If it doesn't happen today, don't force it. That will only add to the anxiety, but now related to the one thing that's going to actually help your child. We want to remove that anxiety, especially as it relates to our role-playing, scaffolding, acknowledgement. So just let them lead the pace. You set the path, but let them lead the pace. We want to make sure that we remember to stay attuned to their needs. Now, attunement is something that I'm going to be discussing in one of my parent coaching groups. If you think you need help with that, let me know and I'll pop you in that group. But otherwise, make sure that you stay really attuned to their needs. This is helping them overcome irrational fears or anxieties and getting past this shyness so that they can really thrive in life. This is not about your immediate need to just go give grandma a kiss so she stops busting my chops every Christmas, right? We want to make sure that we're really focused on the long game. This also allows you to take a couple breaths and recognize that this is just one challenge your child is facing. You have the tools to help them. It's going to take time, and within that time, you now have ample opportunities to just love your child for exactly who they are. So if you have some tips or tricks, or, again, I like to call them tricks, but they're not really tricks. If you just have some techniques that have really helped your child, or that you know have helped other children, or if you just need a bit more help, let me know in the comments below, and I'll be checking in, and we can touch base privately if you like. We can discuss it right here in the thread, or as I mentioned, I have that other group. I'm not trying to plug that, but I do have that other group. If you want to discuss it in a more private way, let me know, and we will work with each other. Parents we are our own best resources as we work together. Make sure you go ahead and comment below. If you got some kind of value out of this video, be sure to give me a little thumbs up so I know that I'm actually hitting the right topics, that I'm actually being relevant to what you guys need. And of course, the highest form of Facebook love, if you know somebody maybe that could benefit from this video, or you just think it was a pretty awesome topic that people in general could use, be sure to click that share button. I just want to thank you so much for taking the time to actually listen to what I had to say. For those of you guys that watched live, thank you for your comments and for your likes. I recognize that it's time out of your day. For some of you, you are on your lunch breaks, and I really do appreciate that. I hope that you and your child are having an amazing day, and that you are able to really get past this challenge. Catch you guys later.